Well, hi everybody. We are back for week 6 of season 3. Dave Toll, I can't believe we're on week 6 already. We've got a pretty action-packed course tonight. Not quite the hell of Richmond last week, perhaps, but a lot of laps around the Champs-Élysées. And my question to you is: are we going to have another Gontova situation? How do you see it playing out today?
Man, I am so stoked to be back, Kate. So, one, yeah, I think so. I'm really excited to see. And for those of you that don't know what my colleague Kate Bates is talking about, we can reference last week. And I was telling some folks, Kate, that, well, a couple team directors reached out and said, "What's the story there?" I'm sure we were both talking about her a little bit after that race. It's extremely cool. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out because this is a little more challenging than you might think. And I have got all kinds of Champs Elysees data and facts for us to sprinkle in to the broadcast now. I'm somewhat of an expert after all the research that I'm doing. Like I hit Nathan in the previous broadcast with the Latisse sprint, and I hadn't heard anyone talking about it, so I did some research, and it turns out that the Romans, when they roamed up to into what is now France, it wasn't France then, and couple Romans settled at a nice little river spring area that is exactly where our sprint line is. And it was Leticia in Italian Roman back then. So now they call it Lettice, and that was Paris before Paris. So that explains why we actually call when we race on the Champs Elysees in the reverse, they call it the Latisse lap or something like that. But there you go. We're going to have all kinds of good data for you. But you know what? The legs do the talking. And we got some great racing on this course 6.6 K per lap. There's a bit of a climb. There's actually a little petit KOM or QOM there 1.2K at about 5% when you make your way. So at the top is the Arc de Triomphe. The bottom part of the Champs Elysees is the Place de la Concorde, and there's some really cool gardens down there as well. But that is nowhere near flat, Kate. Did you ever ride on Champs Elysees in your time? Did you ever been on the Champs?
I have. I've ridden it, Dave, but only for fun, not actually in a race situation. But it certainly is more difficult than it actually looks. And I feel like tonight you're here for the history and the culture, so we'll get a lot more of that in as we can. Now we've actually got pictures, so we'll go straight down to the
Oh,
racing and
great.
take a look at what's happening. We will go through the standings in a second, but Dave, tonight we are watching the women's B category. We've got some big names out there. We've got Molly Van Houweling, Alison Grinnell, Barbara Fazoli, are three of the names that have been very consistent performers over the last couple of seasons. So great to have them. And it looks like they're heading into the first sprint, Dave. Lots of power ups going. They've just crossed that line. 10 to 15 seconds, this one. And Edwards is motoring away.
Well, and all right, we can talk about this, but going early, not 50-50, I'd say, on riders who are able to do what Edwards just did. Evie Edwards is the cryogen rider here who obviously we're going to be talking about a lot, Kate. So this course serves up fantastic racing. So we get a taking a look. So it's been a little tough looking at these bonus sprints, but let's just talk quickly about the fact that they scored 10 deep. We've got fastest through segments as well. So there's a lot of points. These sprints have a tendency to blow some fields up. So I'm not saying it's going to happen now, but it looks like we might have a bit of a split happening, although I'm going to expect it to weld back together. Former world hour record holder and honestly one of the genuine good people in cycling, Molly Van Houweling, on the front right now. When you talk about world hour record holder, I'm not talking about Masters. I'm not talking about North American. This was the big deal at the same time as Bradley Wiggins holding the hour record. Now, we were talking about Evie earlier, Evie Edwards, Evie Stevens ended up having a faster ride eventually. But Molly is a terrific rider, and she's doing some damage out here, Kate.
Yeah, there's some interesting tactics I think you can use on a course like this. We've also you mentioned the points that you get through that sprint. We also have the fastest through segment. That is often happening on the first lap, which makes those first sprints sort of super extra competitive, but also slightly different tactics when you're going for fastest versus just the first over the line. But what's really interesting and what we didn't see in APAC, which opened this week's racing, week 6, is that we didn't see a lot of aggression, especially in the women. They tended to go for the sprints and regroup and not a lot of attacks in between. But it looks to me like with that move from Van Houweling, now she's been brought back immediately because no one in their right mind lets somebody with that kind of pedigree go up the road solo because you can bet your bottom dollar that she can last the 40 kilometres of the race tonight. But it does look like they're a bit more motivated to animate it and get a bit of action. I'm not sure we will end up with a big bunch sprint at the end here, Dave, unless the teams decide that they're going to work together to really bring it back for the sprinters. But early signs suggest they're out there to race for this full distance. So they do 6 laps. It's 6.6 kilometres around. So just shy of 40 kilometres in total for the women's B tonight.
There is a little add-on sector there, about 3.5K when they leave the spawning area from the pens to add on to that. So you got your math right, but should add another 3K. It actually, I think when we looked at the odometer, Kate, it was over 44, to be honest, in real distance. When it finished earlier, I noted the same thing. But
yeah,
I missed by a
that's
country
you're
mile.
right. They've got to do the lead in from the pen. Well, the lead in's not quite what the men get at the Tour de France. They have it more like 150k lead in,
No,
where they get to drink
no.
the champagne. So a very short time for the ladies to have their champagne if that's how they're so inclined this evening.
So, Kate, I don't want to sound like I don't want people to think I'm insane as we're going to bring up the standings, but the women did have sort of a restart of the Tour de France, and it would have been just after your pro career had wrapped up. But mid teens in the 2000s, I would say that they were racing on Champs-Élysées. It was a 1-day race, and we're still hoping for more, but it seems like it's going that way. But so it would have been,
It
it's not
does, yeah.
entirely impossible that a woman of your stature would have raced on Champs-Élysées, but just a little after your time. So, hey, Dutch
Yeah,
Diesel
I
Cycling.
missed it by a couple of years. I felt a little bit ripped off, to be honest. I'll
Yeah,
let you
well, Chip,
go
yeah.
through the team standings here so we get a bit of a picture of who we might be looking out for tonight.
Great. Thanks, Kate. So Dutch Diesel Cycling Xena at 94 points. They are in no way are they in the clear here because Cryogen Mount Evans 2 points back. Herd of Madcap Meerkats just a couple points more, or excuse 1 point more at 3 back from Dutch Diesel. So that being said, when you look at the points table, the team that has the most points here today, collecting them at the bonuses, the fastest through segments, and at the finish line, 50 for the winner, 40 for second. A lot of points. You add them all up amongst the team. Then we go to the table that gives 20 points for today's top team, 19 for second, 18 for third. You get my drift. You can see that, if Dutch Diesel Cycling has a day where they finish fourth and Herd of Madcap Meerkats win that day, all of a sudden, Kate, we've got a tie. So things are very close. Speaking of Madcap Meerkats, then at 91, I don't know if I said that correctly. Madcap Meerkats. It's a tongue twister.
Yeah, you got
Cadence. Yeah, you already heard about the dirty diaper thing, so I got to be careful here. I'm gonna
it.
lose my license. So Cadence with 85 points, ATP Racing Vespid 83. This is close all the way down. Alto Velo Tunitas with 78, Wadi Inc. Ice Cat 71, 53 for Revo Musketeers, and then San Diego Bicycle Club, the Bees. They've got 12 points, but they got a lot of spirit, and I'm always cheering for the San Diego ladies. So we got a lot of racing to do, Kate, but this one's going to be sorted out. We head to Surrey Hills next week. Final team time trial. Team time trial next week. That will be at the 8, and then we go Mad 8, and then we go to Surrey Hills for the final of the series. Community might
Yeah,
have some playoff rounds.
there's some pretty tough racing still to go. We really saw last night Australian time with the APAC, that the strategy appeared to change for a couple of teams, almost like they'd really settled into their position on the table and were willing to try different tactics, and they'd kind of scoped out their competition a bit. And I think that this is definitely an opportunity this week for all of the teams, especially Dutch Diesel, Mount Evans team, and the Meerkats, try saying that fast, is that if any of them are able to, reconsolidate their place, then the next couple of weeks might really be important to the very end. But if Dutch Diesel can take away a victory tonight, then let's not say they can be relaxed heading into the next couple of weeks, but it'll certainly take a lot of pressure off. So I think tonight is quite critical for a lot of these teams to sort of cement their place overall. Let's talk about power-ups for a second, Dave, because I'm seeing a couple of steamrollers get dropped. Now, I don't know if you heard about Anna Russell and her whiteboard of doom with all her little calculations on there, but yeah. It's
Kate,
very much about the coefficient of rolling resistance. Does that mean anything to you, Dave?
Well, it wouldn't have until the last, let's say, okay, Kate, so complete open disclosure, I'm old school, right? I mean, I'm in my mid-50s. I've been following and loving racing since the 70s. I mean, Eddie Merckx was winning the Tour de France, and I remember it, right? So that makes you certainly somewhat old, and I don't mind. I mean, it is what it is. But so I have really picked up esports. I love it, and I've learned about CDA is basically how slippery you are. Your how much effort it takes to move forward, and so that steamroller there, actually, it's the coefficient of drag is what we're talking about, which is more your relationship that your bike has with the road versus how aerodynamic you are, which would be the feather. No, that's weight. Excuse me. The aero helmet would be how aerodynamic you are. So there's a lot of physics at play. But yes, Kate, CDA, and what we really learned from, all of us, I think, learned from our colleague Anna Russell was huge difference when you're talking about going from dirt to pavement. Not so much going from what we're on now, cobbles, to pavement, which is what the steamroller does, the purple power-up that you can see right there. Did I get that right?
Isn't that interesting? You spot on, and you would naturally think that cobbles are possibly more difficult than dirt. At least that was my kind of natural feel. But alas, I am wrong. I think that probably shows that I haven't raced on dirt a lot. Now they're back through this intermediate sprint again, Dave. Post is, well, she's posting a good one here because she's riding away. Yeah. But look at Thompson coming in the orange there, over 10 watts per kg in the acceleration. It will not be enough. Post will take the win. Thompson in second. Thompson with the 30-second van draft power-up. Looks to me like she dropped it a little bit later than she possibly could have. Sometimes it's a really great power-up to drop as you accelerate out of wheels, and it means that you can come from quite far back, sort of step out to the side as you will, and still get that effect. But she certainly came with a lot of speed, and I'm circling her name in my red pen here for the final, if she's still got some legs to sprint, because she's certainly, anybody who goes into the orange in the intermediate sprints, they get an immediate highlighter or red pen effect on their name to watch for the finish. So let's see how she goes. Van Houweling on the move again, Dave. I feel like this might be her wear 'em down kind of tactic tonight from the Dutch Diesel cycling crew. She is on the move. She goes straight through after those intermediate sprints. She's not actually contesting the sprints themselves. It is one of the best tried and tested tactics that there is, but it takes a whole lot of horsepower to be able to do it. Now, they're getting shut down reasonably quickly so far, but remember they do have 6 laps, and so we're only on lap 2, and I think it might be a different story by the back end.
Well, I completely agree with you, Kate. Molly Van Houweling softening them up for the second time here, and that's going to put some riders into a little bit of trouble. You can see having to close down these gaps. I want to go back. That was Whitney Post that we were talking about from Alto Velo race team. That's a group of really inspiring women and men coming out of Northern California. And Whitney is, I'm glad to hear you talking about highly about her, as she has shown a lot of growth racing in esports and has been doing the work. That's something that Nathan has talked about as well. There's no way to fake it out here, and you really do have to knuckle down and just get after it. And Whitney Post deserves a lot of credit for doing exactly that. I mean, she's throwing down with Molly Houweling, who Molly Houweling, I highly doubt Kate has ever been out of shape in her life. She's just one of those kind of people. She's just got a great lifestyle and ethic. And for Molly to be racing out here with these women, some of them, it's a really cool experience. Thompson also today has been outstanding. And I have a feeling this group's going to get smaller quickly there, Kate Bates. They're racing aggressively.
Yeah, I think you might be right, Dave. It is going to keep getting smaller. I've got 4 highlighters so far. They're for Laura Thompson for that orange effort, Evie Edwards for that impressive first sprint, Whitney Post for that very impressive second sprint, and I've also got Molly Van Houweling because she's been doing those digs afterwards. A pretty good tactic, for the Dutch Diesel would be for Molly to wear them out. And by the end, I think people are going to start expecting her to do it, so they'll be watching her, which gives the perfect opportunity for a counter from one of her teammates. Maybe not now that I've said that. Sorry, ladies. But that's what I would be looking for if I was in one of the other teams, for that kind of dummy from Van Houweling that allows somebody else to capitalise on that effect. It's the classic 1-2 move, but done in a bigger bunch situation.
Shake and bake, right? So
shake and bake, baby.
Right, yeah. So I have to say though that I think you're spot on, and to tell you the truth, that's one of the things about it's so in your face racing out here that you can all understand what the tactic is and how they would apply it, and still to be able to stand up and resist is incredibly hard, because these are some real strong big engines. We're going to jump in with the men right now. This is going to be, and Nathan already told me this, our men's 1C group. They're doing 4 laps out here, Kate. So they are now just onto Champs-Elysees. You can see the Arc de Triomphe all up at the end there, and you can actually get a good sense for the, air quotes, climb. But it's a 1.2K at about 5% that you're looking at starting right now.
Well, I'm going to request from Nathan if we can get the course map up for a second. We might be able to do that to take a little bit of a closer look, to put some pictures to these beautiful descriptions you're providing, and all the history and culture that you're bringing tonight, Dave. I feel like you maybe sat down over a glass of wine and went through this course in a very romantic way. So there it is. Wow. Let's take a look. That little climb that you described, it looks a lot bigger on this profile, doesn't it? It's not something to be shirked at.
I was talking with Nathan about Paris and having a picnic on the Seine and enjoying the city of lights, right? Is there a more romantic city in the world? I don't think so. And thank you, Nathan, as we look at Champs-Elysees, the most famous avenue in the history of mankind here. We were talking about Lutèce, the ancient Roman little village that turned into Paris in the sprint, and that's what's going on right now. You can see that arch. This is the Lutèce sprint for the guys. It's the first time, scoring 10 deep, and look at this. It's Marco from Cryogen. Monster effort. Just about 8 guys, it looks like, but over the top now, Kate. This is how you do it. Just enough, not too much. Get 10 points, and it just cooled your jets. Job well done.
Well, you've got to always consider, are they going for first over the line, or are they actually going for that fastest through segment? And that is a very familiar kid in APAC last night. These guys did exceptionally well. They had a late attack. It was one of those kind of Milan San Remo moments, Dave, where they got caught literally on the line. Only one got past, and they ended up taking 1-2 with the remnants of
Oh,
the breakaway. But pretty exciting, like a lot of shouting to be done at the screen, I think, if you were at home and urging them on. But a very good sprint there to open it up. Look how splintered this group is already. There's a lot
wow.
of gaps that have opened up. That is really significant. If they keep the pace on at the front, I do think it will regroup, but it will damage a lot of legs on the way.
I love this shot. Our producer Nathan just is the best. Look at that Arc de Triomphe as they make their way around. That ends the climbing segment, and you get to drop back down. But well, what a historic sight. That is up at the top of Champs Elysees as they make their way down now. So 4 laps for these riders. Kate, I'm going to ask. So it's been a long day. We start with Premier League here pretty early in North America, and I decided I have our friend and colleague Matt Stevens who's at the Giro d'Italia, and I've been watching the first 2 stages, and today because we were busy, I haven't watched anything. So
Oh, do you know
unfortunately,
who won? Because I feel like
well,
if you
because
don't,
someone
then
told
the
me,
day that you should
someone,
have. Oh, okay.
so yeah, I got a text, which really upset me because I've got everything saved up for after this race to watch the Giro tonight. It was going to be the greatest 1-2 punch. I was going to watch the Giro tonight after this and then watch the Giro in the morning tomorrow and basically just live the Italian dream. But, well, now I'm still going to watch. But, anyways, uh,
Alas, yes.
yes, alas. So back to the racing here. You're right. This is really rugged, chasing on this little 3% downhill here. It is so hard to rejoin. Let's cheer Noah on. Zwift crushing daddy.
Yeah, it is. It is very hard to be stuck on your own when they're going these kinds of speeds. So upward of 50 kilometres an hour, they're not going to be able to really hold it out there on their own for too long unless they're riding at Filippo Ganna kind of powers. 590 watts for the final 2 kilometres of the Giro
Unreal.
prologue, Dave. Mind
Yeah,
blowing. Anybody on Zwift, try that for 10 seconds and see how you go.
exactly.
20 seconds if you think 10 seconds is easy. So it is. They are pretty big power numbers to maintain a breakaway on this kind of course. We have seen it so many times at the Tour de France. That's why this stage so often ends in a bunch sprint, because regardless of what's on the line, and often there is a yellow jersey or a green jersey on the line in that final stage, but it so often ends up in a bunch sprint because it is very difficult to go away solo. And it is a slog uphill here. We've had, again, we're back over watching the women. We've got Whitney Post
again?
going for it again. She hits that line already with a 2-second lead. But look at Laura Thompson back in the orange. And in fact, she's up the ante. She just hit 11 watts per kilo. Timing is better. Drop of the aero power up. She's learning. She's evolving. That was brilliant from Whitney Post. But Thompson, she learnt last lap that you have to time it correctly, and she's certainly done that.
We're watching a Zwifter just leveling up in front of our eyes. I'm going to start researching Thompson. This is what I love so much about our community. That's really interesting. I completely agree with your assessment there, Kate. She literally, we watched her. It's like watching a little chick being born and then coming to life. As this is a racer who is learning in front of us. She's got the engine. Canuck up. Thompson is really, I'd have to say, a rider to watch as we look at, again, Molly Van Houweling. She counters after that sprint every time. It's body blow after body blow from Molly as she channels her inner Muhammad Ali. But Thompson standing out here in the early going. Actually, early going, we're almost to the midpoint of this race for the women. This is our women's Division 1 Bs. Yeah.
It's interesting that Laura Thompson remained off the front for so long because she wasn't pushing the power and the watts necessarily, but it just goes to show she came with so much speed that she held a lot of that speed, which allowed her when she went over the top around the Arc de Triomphe to then
Kate, was she waiting to see
sit up.
if someone wanted to go on a break? Do you think? Sorry to step on you,
I
but was
think
she
she
waiting to
was
see if someone wanted to ride?
probably, yeah, I think she was probably just, based on how much she evolved in the last lap in terms of um, sprint tactics and strategy. I think that she was probably just using the speed she had and then waiting to get around the Arc de Triomphe in the most efficient way without having to put too much power on, and then sitting up. It's actually a very efficient way to do it, because if you sit up immediately, you will then get caught by the chasing bunch just as you're going around the top of the Arc de Triomphe, which is still slightly uphill, maybe a little bit flat. If you can keep that lead a tiny little bit longer, they won't catch you until you're then starting that slight downhill and able to recover a little bit. So I'm going to give her a lot of credit for the tactics she's using tonight, because for us to be able to witness that evolution mid-race, it says a lot about her character, and it says a lot about her race savvy. So I've put her now a double highlighter and a star next to Laura Thompson's name.
Holy cow.
So, my notepad is starting to look quite busy here, I've got to tell you, Dave. I think I need some new coloured pens.
It's your signature thing. Over at the gift store at Zwift Community Live, they should sell Kate Bates branded markers to work with the Anna Russell whiteboard that has been developed, and we
Yes,
can
I
start
like
branding
this.
you guys out.
Yeah,
Nathan is
some
always up for a good
merchandising.
idea. So yeah, we'll get some merch going for sure. So, um, I have to say again, it is extremely cool to see these racers developing their skills out here tonight. This is going to be a lot of fun, bouncing back and forth between the men and the women. Laura Thompson is a rider that we're going to hear more about. Kate, what an interesting scenario, and I get it, I really do. But if you're racing with these women and you're able to sprint and end up off the front, this is a real luxury as an athlete, as you now get to, okay, you can start then realizing you're pretty good at this, right, Kate? You are showing what I would call an upward trajectory and some potential. So now what we need to do is figure out, let's refine things and get to the point where you don't waste a watt, so that when you hit them, it's like a mega bomb, right? We're going to be taking a look here at Wyman at the mid part of the race, and this is
It's
a
a
mixed race,
lady,
and
Dave, because she's
yeah,
in the
good for
mixed
her.
race. How good is it to see her giving it? Well, I don't know if you know this, Dave. Being a man and all, but we have a term in lady cycling where you go past a gentleman and they all chase you, and you say they've been chicked. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of
So
it.
Wyman is well and
Yes.
truly chicking the fellas. And I can hear Nathan in the background asking if that's a bit controversial. Look, not from my point of view, but I do think that ladies can say a lot more than men can when it comes to commentating on ladies. But very good job from Teresa Wyman. We sometimes forget that they're mixed categories, but she's pretty new to the Zwift
She started
scene, so
racing in
she's only been on
April.
Zwift since April. Yeah, Dave, that's
Yeah,
incredible. She's obviously got a bit of tenacity. So,
yeah.
I'd love to see
Well,
what
and
she
she's
could do
attacking.
also in the women's league.
Yeah, give her credit where it's due, as you are, Kate. She's attacking a group of men that are racing full bore. It's not like they were
Mm.
laying back and saying, hey, go ahead and take a little turn on the front, sweetheart. She was kicking butt out there. So good job. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. These mixed races, we saw it with our colleague, Kate Verano. She was outstanding in, well, racing with the Zwift HQ team. So really strong kick from Shaniger here, as this is going to be the second time through the sprint. And boy, didn't need a photo finish camera for that one, as the TFC rider takes 10 points, Kate.
Well, Dennis Shaniger has one of the better Zwift power accounts in terms of PBs for 15
Yikes.
seconds for power. So he is a good sprinter, certainly one to watch out for. He'll get a highlighter special around his name for that effort. when he does that. And I also might add that Ford Denton, I just very quickly Googled what Appaloosa is. So now I know they're horses. So now I know we're talking about a herd of galloping aerodynamic horses when I see that.
Ah, there you go.
It's very important that we delve
So,
into the important
well,
facts here,
we
Dave.
do. And Kate, obviously, everyone knows that my colleague, my esteemed colleague, Kate, is Australian, where basically animals are either, so the two ends of the spectrum, they're either incredibly cute, like koala bears, or they will instantly kill you the second you lay eyes on them. There's really not a lot of middle ground. Like, Australia's
Yeah, I think
quite
that's
a
fair.
continent. Yeah, I mean, you have some of the most insane snakes and spiders and things that we've never even heard of in North America. But then, I mean, a wallaby, a baby kangaroo, a koala. Does it get much cuter than that either? So
Yeah, we
good
do.
on
We
you.
do definitely have both ends of the scale. I mean, I tell you, when my 3-year-old found a spider called a redback spider, which will kill you, I was a
Yikes.
little bit nervous because she thought she could
Scary
pick
for a
it up
mom.
and it would be all good. So,
Yeah.
yes, we definitely learn to check your shoes. Look at this. Evie Edwards.
Check
She
Evie
gets
Edwards'
another star
shoes.
next to her name.
Yeah. Yeah. Highlight her for me, please, Kate. And those shoes are spinning around so fast that they might blow this group up. As I'm wondering now, does Van Houweling want to work with Edwards and see if they can roll off the front? They're down to, well, we're at the halfway point. It's a little far out, to be honest. But Kate, I love the spirit here from Edwards.
I do too. I love the cadence too. Over 100 cadence. If you are able to ride over 100 cadence at all, it shows an efficiency. And I had an old training program from a lady called Petra Rosner. You would have commentated
Oh,
on
I know
Petra over
Patrick
the
for
years,
sure.
Dave. And
She
she
won in
was my
Philly so
coach,
many
and
times.
she did. She did. She was just such an incredible bike rider. And she said to me one day, okay, in the preseason this time, what we're going to do is you're just going to go out and ride and hold 95 to 105 cadence for as long as you can. And when you can't hold
Huh.
it anymore, you come home. And I looked at the program and thought, well, this will be the easiest thing I ever did. It is so difficult to do. And I challenge anybody to give that a bit of a go on Zwift, because it teaches you this incredible pedaling efficiency, and it also really helps you regulate your heart rate, and also save your legs a little bit if you're starting to get quite dead or heavy legs at the end of big weeks or big periods of training or racing.
Yeah.
And so to see somebody sitting over 100 cadence indicates that they are pretty efficient with the way they race. It also indicates to me that they've got more left in the tank, because Evie Edwards could get out of her seat, throw it down another gear, and have a little bit left. So they're coming into the sprint now. Laura Thompson, she's my girl, hitting the orange already. She's the only one that's consistently hitting the orange today, on a bit of a mission. New to Zwift, as we just discussed. She's going to do it again, and quite easily. That was a bit of a,
Wow.
hold on, this is 3 laps, 3 different tactics. She's just kind
3 for
of like
3.
teaching herself along the, I feel like she's maybe got a checklist where she's like, win 1, sprint from the front, win 1, sprint from the back, fastest through segment without anybody noticing. I mean, this is like a bit of a masterclass. Where's Anna and her whiteboard? Anna will need to write some of
No
these down.
kidding. Well, you know what? You're verbally breaking it down exceptionally well, Kate. Hey, I want to go back to what you were talking about, that 100 RPM, that magic number there. Completely agree. If I see a rider who can make 100 RPM comfortably, I know that they probably raced as a junior, or because of gearing restrictions, right? I mean, Corinne Rivera,
Yeah,
who
yeah.
the first ever, she can make 160 RPM without being what would you say, bothered. I mean, like, she can spin that fast. I've never seen anyone, Kate, with better leg speed than Corinne Rivera. I hope she goes to the Olympics in Tokyo. I really do. So that being said, a track rider learning how to get on top of a gear, it's something you did as a 2005 world champion. I mean, clearly, Kate, you know exactly what I'm talking about with getting on top of a track gear. And so, I mean, sometimes you see the bike just throwing the rider all over the place, but when you learn that souplesse, that pedal stroke, as clearly Thompson is going to be fun to watch. This woman does not need any coaching from me on how to race a bike. Very
Yeah,
fresh, though. So she literally is a level 14 Zwifter, which is uh, a baby Zwifter, Kate.
but it is. It is. I mean, we were discussing it with Anna in the APAC how. Anna was saying, you would definitely choose Tron or definitely choose the disc wheel. And, I've spent a lot of time on Zwift, but I don't have either accessible to me because I haven't leveled up enough. So it is actually quite significant the amount of time some of these riders have spent on here. Edwards pushing away. She's clearly on a bit of a mission now. We can see a clear tactic emerging here. Dave, to go back to the pedaling just a little bit because it's a great topic, have you ever heard the saying pedaling squares? So pedaling
I
squares
tried
is
to avoid it. Yeah,
something that
I,
we do. You say
Kate,
like,
I'm sorry.
how are you feeling today? Ugh, I was pedaling squares. That's kind of something that we would say, when your legs aren't very good. And that's because you feel like you can't hold that high cadence with how you were explaining it, like the smoothness that it requires.
It's funny. I feel like a bad teammate right there because I shut my mic off for a second, Kate. So, and it's funny. Because you know what? I didn't want to miss a pull, but you're absolutely right. Pedaling squares is it's one of those great terms that cycling seems to do such a wonderful job with. So many of them are Italian or Belgian, and the translations are always so interesting. But that almost sounds like an Australian one, to tell you the truth, when you talk about pedaling squares, because it's brutally honest. I mean, if you don't have the flow, you know pretty quickly. I'm going to guess, Kate, back in your day, that you either knew you had the good legs or not. You know what I'm hearing from our producer? Well, she is a track racer. So there you go. I'm actually
Ah,
really, really
look,
stoked to hear that.
special place in my heart for track races, Dave. Shout out to you, Evie Edwards. Love a good track rider. But I think that track racing is a really good development path for whether it's road, mountain bike, or continuing on the track. I think that Zwift has really stepped up to be that as well. In the past, road was a little bit more get out there, do the Ks, not quite the nuances of what track racing and track training has been, but that is certainly evolving. So we're back to the men now, Dave. Remembering they've only got 4 laps, the men C, so less than 30k in total because 26.4k of laps plus that lead in. They're now past the halfway mark. Denton and his horses is having a very strong race, but I've got a couple of highlighters out for what we've seen so far heading into those intermediate sprints. A fairly big bunch. Are we going to see, what do you reckon? Are we going to see a bit of a late breakaway and the guys giving it a bit of a go, or do you think they'll just settle in for a bunch sprint?
So surprisingly, I'm going to go with the former and say that we do see an attack and a break. Now, the previous race, though, Kate, we did not. It was a group a little bit larger than what we've got here in the West, but every race is a different story. You never know with the teams. And I mean, this is something, again, this has been always enjoyable. I learned so much, Kate, with you, but we're looking at the Zwift crushing daddies attacking right now. And, well, I know that we're both big fans of this team, and the gap is going up to 5 seconds now from Marco. So this is a legit move. It's going to be fun. He can see the arch. Is it enough? 4 seconds right now to be good for the 10? But yeah, he's got it, Kate.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
So that's
the sprint isn't too far after that start finish line, so they do have the opportunity to get that power up as well. He's just hit the sprint line. It's only 150 meters, 10 to 15 seconds. I think Marco will hang on to this with a 5 second advantage over Tickton. So he should be able to get over the top comfortably. But the question is, will he keep going with it, Dave, or will he just sit up, take those points, and take the chance to recover?
He sat up so hard that he's already back in the middle of the group. Man, actually, this is some lap traffic that they're going by, right? We've got bodies laying all over the Champs-Elysees. It has been insane out here. So it was certainly Shaniger that was the top sprinter. This is the man that we're looking at right now for TFC, the Friday Criterium, this extremely well-known and respected squad. I've never noticed that bouncing Z over there before on Champs-Elysees. That was a cool little Easter egg for me. So this is the Arc de Triomphe. They're making the way around. This group is getting smaller by the second, Kate. So it's just going to be attrition, apparently. So I'm taking a look then at a group now that went from, I'm going to say 15 down to about 7 riders here. So, and they're attacking. So Kate was exactly right. As a matter of fact, as Kate made that comment, it looks like a few riders decided to put that into play, because here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, grab a hold of something, as these guys have gone absolutely ballistic out here. So Kate's math was going to be good. It's just under 30K of racing, but we've got ourselves an OSS situation, a 6-second gap. In the women's race that you're looking at there, Evie Edwards has opened up a 6-second gap here, so you can see the picture in picture here. So Evie, solo, 6 seconds, and that race has got about 14K to go. So we'll watch Evie's progress as we watch the guys. And boy, 2 very exciting races going on right now. Again, back in with the men here on the main screen. This group has welded itself back together now, as a few riders were able to chase back in, but that had the alarm bells ringing. Certainly, it looks like a second group might rejoin. One rider in no man's land right now is Matkowski of the OTR Force squad here, is, I think, going to be a part of a big general regrouping, actually, here, as nobody wanted to press on. A lot of racing still ahead of them. So I can understand the mentality, as the situation in that front group is now going to almost double in size. But here we go. This is the Vanguard, our solo leader. And that's 8 seconds now. So looking at the advantage going out here. And it's going to be, so saying for the women, 6 laps. That's going to be 40, let's call it 44, okay? I'll put my thumb on the scale there. That won't be exactly right, but this is dangerous, as obviously Evie Edwards is a really talented rider. We were doing a little bit of research, and if I heard Nathan correctly, she's got a track background. And if that's the case, that is a rider who should know how to gauge her effort exceptionally well. I mean, that's, if you have experience racing on a velodrome, it's much more controlled than just out doing open road racing or criterium racing. So we'll see if that's the case or not. But Edwards sitting 7-8 seconds out in front of the front chase group, and Molly Van Houweling and Torelli, the other rider that looks like they're leading the chase right now. With multiple riders participating and helping is certainly, you start seeing that number coming down as the laws of physics here really come into play for Evie Edwards. But she certainly has put everyone on alert here today on Champs-Elysees, as she's going to be a rider for the future as well. So Kate, Evie Edwards takes a big dig out here. It's not over, but we watched what was a 9-second advantage really being halved here after Molly Van Houweling went up. Torelli and Thompson Post as well, taking some pulls here. And these are the names: Whitney Post, Laura Thompson, Molly Van Houweling. They've certainly been doing the lion's share of the work right behind Evie Edwards. But take my cap off to Evie. She's been out here quite a while, and it's going back up here, Kate.
Yeah, they just went through that intermediate sprint, so the gap did close. Certainly we saw, as is becoming quite par for the course, Laura Thompson delve into that orange to go through that intermediate sprint to get some points. And so the speed really picked up. Now, this is an interesting one. Whitney, come on, DD, let's bring her back. That's a public message to everybody saying, come on, Dutch Diesel Cycling, let's do this and bring her back. That suggests, if nothing else, that they're a little bit worried about it. If I were Edwards, I would be cranking it up an extra gear, getting out of my seat, accelerating and really taking a bit of confidence from a comment like that. They're just shy of 10 kilometres left to go. But Edwards, she's capitalised on them all sitting up a bit after that sprint. An intermediate sprint will often throw the cat amongst the pigeons in a chase. So that's very well done for Edwards to capitalise on that. And she's flying down. The heart rate's pretty high, but it's not ridiculous. It's manageable. It's around threshold point. I think Edwards is going to be very difficult to beat if she hits about 15 to 20 seconds. I think that's our magic number today.
I wish that Molly Van Houweling was with her, Kate. If Molly, my bad. If Molly Van Houweling was there with her, I would really give this a 50-50 shot with 12 seconds. But one rider alone, it's going to be really tough, no doubt about it. But Evie Edwards is showing us a lot of courage right now. And you never know what the group is going to look like by the time they get up to her, because she's done some serious damage out here, Kate. And we're going to come up on 10K to go. We're there or thereabouts right now. So Evie Edwards certainly gets our most aggressive rider award out here for our women's race. This has been fantastic. I believe at the top of the show, we were talking about the finale, what it's going to look like. Can a breakaway succeed? Well, Kate, if this one makes it, it is a long-range ride and certainly would go down as one of the best rides of the season.
It's a tough one. It is starting to come back just a little bit. Let's take a look back at the chase group if we can. That's a request to the producer to get the camera angles. I feel like the demanding commentator at the moment, Dave. But I'm really interested to see, and there we have it, because he's a genius. Thank you, Nathan.
So good.
The numbers tell a different story than this picture, because if they were chasing hard, they would be reasonably strung out. But what they're actually doing is they're a little bit bunched up. They're almost looking at each other. Yes, they're still moving at pretty decent speed, but I don't think this is the do or die kind of chase that's going on here. And every time we say things like that, a few seconds delay, and often things change, and you do wonder if they're listening and thinking, righto, well, we'll prove them wrong. But they do need to get organised, and there will come a point where if Dutch Diesel Cycling are chasing and they're not getting a lot of help from her, they might think, come on, we've got an effort that we all have to do here, or it's just not going to happen. So Edwards hasn't won a race, I'm told, since September 2019. That puts a little bit more impetus in her chase. It's gone out again, Dave. It's now at 15 seconds. So that's been a little bit of a turnaround. The only time it closed was actually on the descent, when naturally a bunch will move faster than an individual. But Edwards is not slowing down at all. She's continuing this march. 16 seconds now. This is a brave move.
You know what Edwards would love for us to do? I know we've already passed the May 4th, the Star Wars Day, but she really wants us to convince this peloton that she's got no chance. Because she wants that these are not the droids that you're looking for a moment, because she really, really needs them to believe that she can't do it, because if they all start working together and chase her hard, it's going to be tough. If they discount her chances, Kate, this might be it. And she has pushed it out to 20 seconds. Well, I'm going to round up for her and call it 20 seconds. This is going to be scary. Molly Van Houweling. So red alert, all regulators, mount up, as this has turned from a brush fire into a structure fire, Kate.
Well, if if Dutch Diesel Cycling want to win this, this is the time where they may need a sacrificial lamb. There could be no more powerful a sacrificial lamb than a former hour record holder in Van Houweling. We're ducking over to the men because, Dave, it is their last lap. So it's their last preem, and they've gone through the start finish with the bell. They're now on that final preem, so 10 or 15 seconds here. Marco again. He's on
back.
form tonight. He is sprinting his way quite conservatively to the finish. Oh, we've got a late flyer, but he won't get there. Marco will hang on. That steamroller just doesn't seem to be as good as those other power-ups tonight at all, but you get what you get and you don't get upset. So good use of the power-up there, but more points for Marco. And another star next to his name.
Kate, I know you do all kinds of commentary, but I could really hear your voice at the velodrome with that. We've got another flyer, late flyer, and that's it. Look at the damage all over the place. You know, Marco certainly has been impressive. This might be the fastest sprinter in ZRL that we've got on our screen right now. Oh boy, this is going to be interesting. Now, they do have a ways to go here, Kate. I'm going to say, rough estimate, just under 5K. But wow, this is really, really dynamic.
Isn't it 5K can both be quite a short distance and a hideously long distance, depending on the scenario of the race. But this is dangerous, because if Chi can jump across and these pair can work well together, then we could have a completely different scenario playing out. They're only 2 seconds apart. I don't think that this will, in fact, turn into a big break. But they are certainly pushing the luck and seeing what can happen here.
Man, all right. It is absolutely bananas in Paris right now. Z-Sun trying to regulate things here. This is Giro, the Z-Sun R rider. Nathan and I are trying to sound cooler, and we're saying Z-Sun now, Kate, if you're wondering. So just us trying to up our game, leveling up. But it is going to come back together. We're going to see a Grupo Compacto here from this front group now. But, boy, they continue to press. It's just body blow after body blow being thrown here. And maybe it doesn't come back together, Kate. This is what I love about the Zwift Racing League, this kind of finale. So Chi has made the catch, but as he does, a few more riders come up and join them. This is your front group looking at, let's call it 3K to the line.
I do like Z-Sun. Z-Sun sounds.
We're trying.
It just sounds softer and not, not as
I
funky, maybe. I mean, that's, let's just go with Z-Sun for now. But we don't have a lot of Z-Sun riders up there. Giro is really flying the flag for them this evening. He's doing a pretty good job. He just needs to save a little energy. This is a dwindling pack. Definitely.
Yeah, it is.
Not a lot of place to hide. They really need to start considering what they're going to do for the sprint. I've noticed, I was telling Anna last night, Dave, that I've been playing around in some bunch rides and possibly annoying a few people, trying a few different intermediate sprint tactics with power-ups and seeing how they can affect your run and how they can work. And I do think that a sprint from the back with a good power-up and hitting them a bit unawares is a good one. So let's just duck back to the women very quickly before we head to the men's finish. Evie Edwards, she's still out there, but she's only got,
It's not bad.
The gap has come back a tiny bit, but only to Whitney Post. And then it is the chasing bunch 4 seconds behind Post. So it looks like Post has cracked the boo-boos with this sprint, with this chase group, remembering that she publicly messaged and said, come on, let's chase. But now that she's gone through that sprint marker, she's actually sitting up, so she must have been chasing points. Thompson rolls over the top. It'll happen again, I think, Dave, where they'll all regroup and sit up. If Edwards can keep pushing through this, then this is the opportunity to open that break even further. But
she's not coming back.
It's a long-range call. I don't think she's coming back.
No, I'm with you. This is outstanding. So Evie Edwards, we're looking at, let's call it 1.5K. She's gone. This is going gone. She's been in the bank. She's got all of the money, and she's now in the getaway car, hightailing her way around beautiful
I love your
Paris. It
analogies.
doesn't get. Yes, this is they talk about the Italian job. This is the French job. She just stole this bike race. Evie Edwards, you are a superstar. I really hope you back me up and hold on for the win here because I'm a believer, Evie. So
Well, I think
nothing
Laura
worse,
Thompson is
Kate. Nothing worse than
probably
the.
getting ready for the sprint.
So you've
Sorry,
got the
what's nothing
world
worse?
hour record holder chasing you, Kate. That's a little scary. There's a lot of horsepower back here. Can she hold on or not? Oh my gosh, I love bike racing, Kate Bates.
I think that the time to sacrifice Van Houweling has probably passed. She could have, done an all-out and drop-off effort for them early on. But what we need to remember, and it's actually hard because it's so easy, isn't it, to go for that. We're so used to traditional bike races where we want to see first over line and who wins. But this is a points race. And for Dutch diesel cycling, it is a much better outcome for them, for Dutch diesel cycling, to get, say, second and fifth or third and fifth than it is for Van Houweling to sacrifice herself, do the big effort, but then get dropped because that won't actually get the point. So we're going to flick back to the men, Dave, because they've only about a K to go here. There's been a little bit of argy-bargy positioning and getting ready for this final. There is less than 10 of them in this front group. So this is where they have to really consider how they're going to sprint. The chase group were having a few little cranky moments a few minutes ago. So there's obviously emotions are high out there, Dave. From this group, we will find the winner. I guess what we have to wait and see is, will we have somebody take a flyer, or are they just going to jockey for this finish?
If I don't hear racers complaining about each other after the race, I know that they didn't race hard enough, because that is hand in glove with how racing goes. It's such a beautiful sport, and this has been interesting. They got it down to 10, and then you start really looking at each other. Who's going to launch? No one wants to go first, Kate. I mean, how much have you learned in your days on the velodrome about how do you play your cards here? So these guys are, well, looks like they're going to be joined, actually. This is what happened when you play too much cat and mouse. But they're going to light the fuse here any moment now. This train leaves the station. Finale time. There's the finish line. C-Sun, Z-Sun hits out.
All right, Garreau is on the move. He's hit out pretty early, but with the finish just up the road, well, no, here the chasing pack comes, led by Denton from our Galloping Horses. I'm going to rename them the Galloping Horses. Shanniger. How's my pronunciation on that? I'll have to fix that. Shanniger goes over the line there for the win, and a good timed sprint. I think I called him Shenanigans. So a few renamings happening in that sprint finish, Dave.
It was too exciting.
Some Galloping Horses and some Shenanigans, and I'm going to stick with it. We will be able to watch that replay a bit later if we want to, but we have to flick back to the women because the action is all on here. They are now heading toward the finale. Edwards, she's still got it. It's out to 23 seconds now. And Dave, Gontova last week, I gave her a pretty early season call of ride of the season. But Edwards is putting her hand up here to steal that honour.
Hey, I completely agree. I have to ask you, from your experience, Kate, when you're in that second group, that chase group, and you realize, look, you ladies are not working hard enough. We are not going to catch her. Have you had that experience where you're just completely frustrated, where you're not going to get a chance to sprint, where you realize that you just left it late? Has that happened?
So frustrating. It was actually a big weakness of mine that I'd get quite frustrated, and instead of playing the tactical smart game and sitting and looking after myself to be fresh to sprint for second, I'd get annoyed and keep trying to chase and almost waste energy. It took me quite a long time in my career to learn how to have the patience around that. But certainly, I think Edwards is gone, and that chasing group now, it doesn't matter whether they finish 25 seconds back or 35 seconds back. They need to really look after themselves
So,
and prepare themselves for the sprint. The absolute big circle for me is around Laura Thompson, but I think Whitney Post is also going to be a bit of a danger. So those two riders in particular need to just get a good position. And Molly Van Houweling might want to look at doing a flyer, but Edwards, she's gone. She will take this day and a very big ride from her, Dave.
Kate, out in the West, I'm here in Colorado in the United States. They use that term breaking a horse. I'm sure they say the same thing in Australia, where you break the will of the horse and then it moves into a domesticated horse. Well, in all honesty, and I've heard Nathan use this term, and I always thought it was really an impressive way of putting it. She has broken them. She broke their will to chase. And you do not see that much at this level talking about Evie Edwards out here today. It was a command performance. So yeah, like Gontrova last week, same thing this week. It seems like no matter where we look, we can poke around. Nathan brings us a tremendous bike race. Today, it was the women here in the 1Bs. The men's 1Cs also outstanding. I mean, this has been just a great day of racing again here on the ZRL. But she's going to do it. You are the queen of Paris. Evie Edwards. Boom, boom. Out go the lights in the city of lights as Edwards takes the win.
What a ride from her, isn't it? We called it early and we said this will be magnificent if she pulls this off. She's managed to do it, but now the chasing sprint. Look at this. Thompson, she
Yikes.
accelerates away. This is going to be convincing for second. Again, the only rider that's consistently dipped into the orange today. Yellow, where did I get that from? Into the orange today to take that sprint. Dave, I feel like a bit of moments reflection. I'm getting so excited in these sprint finishings that I'm saying shenanigans. I'm saying galloping horses. I'm saying duck into yellow. I mean, this is how exciting this racing is that it's almost overwhelming at these finishing. But brilliant riding from Laura Thompson. So,
You're losing your mind.
Well, I'm losing my mind with excitement. It's a good thing, right?
I love it. I have to say that we need to, that what you bring to this broadcast, I learned so much from you, and I hope that all of the racers out there can appreciate Kate's perspective on things. As man, it has been awesome. And at the end of the day, Kate, the thing that I really learned is spirit is what makes a bike racer. And I heard them talking about this at the Giro, the day that Taco van der Hoorn won, about in order to win, you have to risk losing, right? And so few people are willing to take that risk. They're so conservative with their money, with everything about the way they dress, the way everything they do is conservative. And you never stand out. You never have your moment. And I would rather go big and then blow up, get caught, get blown out the back, but at least have tried than to have always sat back in the pack and waited.
Yeah, and I think that we have a lot of really cool sayings in cycling around that, like as you say, go big or go home. You've got to be in it to win it. I think the general feel and sentiment from a lot of the riders is that, what have you got to lose? If you're not prepared to lose it, then you'll never win it. So it's great to see that. And also, side note, Dave, the fact that somebody won a Giro stage and their name is Taco, winner.
So cool.
For me. I just feel like there's a T-shirt in that. Maybe we can add that to the Zwift Community Live merchandise store with my highlighters and my whiteboard. We've got results, so let's take a look at those before I start thinking about tacos and getting distracted.
I know.
We'll get the results soon. See, I'm getting distracted today. I'm all about the shenanigans. So let's just talk about the racing for a second before we do get those results through. I don't know. Tell me about what you saw in Premier League and also the America East, because in APAC, it was pretty conservative racing, almost like they were all a little bit shy after what happened in Richmond last week with such tough course. And today we're a bit happier to sit in and sprint. But it feels like by the time we got to America West, that sentiment had changed a little bit?
Well, it's a great question. And, really, I mean, speaking to what we were just talking about, the reverse of that is, and you see this in the World Tour so much, especially World Tour men's racing, where they start racing to protect the top 10 spot, top 5 spot, or a classification jersey. And when you all of a sudden have 8 different teams that are riding to protect a rider, and I mean, when it's things as far down as literally a top 10 spot, it changes the dynamic of racing because everything gets chased back, because it's impossible to put 8 riders up the road that don't threaten someone on a team that's got an ambition to ride. And so it makes it that all of these teams participate in the chase. And so we're gotten to the point now in the Premier League where the top teams, men and women, kind of looking to protect things a little bit. And when they look around and see, okay, we're down to a group of 24 and 3 or 4 of us are here, okay. No, we could do a lot worse, and we're not going to do too much better. And if we try to do better, we're going to do a lot worse. So just sit back. And it makes for, this is where you start seeing these. So today, what we saw, to answer your question, sorry to take such a roundabout journey to get there, but we saw some of the teams that aren't participating at the top of the table in the season. They were way more aggressive, throwing riders up the road and really going for it, men and women, and it made it super fun to watch.
Yeah, I think you're dead right. And the other thing that Zwift can provide is a whole lot of data where you can analyze your competitors and say, oh, their heart rate's high. I don't think they can hold it. But you need to sometimes step back and kind of see the forest for the trees, and look at things like cadence. Like we picked it straight away with Evie Edwards that her cadence over 100, she was feeling pretty good. You simply cannot do that if you don't have decent legs. But I think a lot of people, it's easier or just more normal, let's say, to look at the power and to look at the heart rate, and to go by that. So what you want to do is you want to kind of be a Laura Thompson. And by that, I mean that what we
I
saw
can only
tonight
dream.
was an evolution.
Yes.
But we saw an evolution through the race where she had in her head some different ways to potentially get sprint points. How can you attack it? What can you do differently? Sometimes you can try these out in bunch rides, although that is a lot harder because it's a slightly false scenario.
No,
But being able to do it in this kind of race and have the freedom to do it, because she's earning points along the way. So it's not a risky tactic at all. In fact, if her team backs her, then it's a really good way for her to do it. But by just trying out these different scenarios and understanding that for your strengths, because everybody's different, what can result for you and taking that risk. And we saw a lot of those risks tonight, Dave. And so I think that it's a lot of info to digest for anybody trying to analyze it. But if you take some of these lessons, and maybe that the lesson tonight is get a whiteboard like Anna Russell has, and you put all these things up on it, you stand back and bit by bit, you get a bit of a picture of what you could try out there.
That's a great point. I'm going to get my whiteboard on Amazon here as soon as we're done. I wanted to add that, so Kate, I think you would know better than anyone that to get that last 1% that racing brings you, you can't do that training. You can go out with the guys and do the Thursday night Worlds race, and you can get close to simulating that. But there's something about endorphins and adrenaline that you get from the fight or flight instinct. And let's face it, it's animal instinct that makes a bike racer different from a bike rider. and that instinct, that last percent, that's one of my favorite things. As I'll wrap up this thought on Zwift, is that you can't exactly replicate the outdoor racing experience, but I really have learned, and I think you'd agree, but you don't have to, but that you can get that 1%, because she felt Evie was being chased by 10 very strong women who were racing as hard as they could, and she broke them. She broke their will to chase, and she had to do that by scraping the bottom of the barrel. And that was unbelievably cool to watch. You think I'm right?
I do. I think you're right. I think there's certainly riders who we would describe as, they're real racers because you pin a number on them, virtual or real, and they manage also always to find another 10% of the watts. Let's take a look on that thought at the results from today, and we'll take a look at how Evie Edwards smashed the competition in the end. Incredible ride from her. So we'll start with the A's. So we'll take a look at what happened there. We followed the beast. Oh my goodness, would you believe it, Dave Toll? Nadia Gontova, 41 seconds. She's done it again. Another Gontova situation. Have they learnt nothing from last week? Audi women. This actually looks like it's almost like a start sheet by how organised these numbers are. These teams, yeah. Gontova, Law, and Det Skolten for Audi women taking the top three. We've got Walker, Nadler, and Hayes for San Diego Bicycle Club taking 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9, we've got Pamela Troyer, Anna Rogers, and Jessie Whitaker, so for the Velocity Vixens. And then we've got Beryl Polat rounding out that top 10 for the San Diego Bicycle Club. That is a very interesting result sheet. It's almost orchestrated. But a very big bunch sprint after the solo win from Gontova. So I can't say I'm surprised without having seen any of the racing. But the Bees, Dave, what a race that was.
Well, certainly. And I just want to reflect back that Gontova situation now. She has Premier League. Not only will she fit right in, she'll be a star in the Premier League with the numbers she's putting up. And I mean, I honestly think that there's just nothing that they can do. She's at a higher level. That's so cool. All right, let me jump in with the B women because this was quite a day in Paris as Edwards will take it for herd of Madcap Meerkats. So this was, let's see here, the Canadian then, Thompson for Team Cadence taking second. It's Young Nickel for Alto Velo Tonitas for the bronze medal. It's Van Houweling in fourth for Dutch Diesel. They take fifth as well with Torelli. Another Canadian here, but this time for herd of Madcap Meerkats. It's Fallen in sixth. Steele for seventh, again for Alto Velo Tonitas. D Makepeace for Cadence in eighth. Heinz in ninth for ATP Vespid. And then we can see a New Zealander, Lorimer, for Crouch and Mount Evans, rounding out our top 10 for the B women. Great racing today, ladies.
All right, let's take a look at the C's. We've got Christine Barr taking the win there ahead of the Andersons, H. Anderson, and then Cameron Anderson sitting in third on different teams. I suggest they're possibly not related, but possibly, you never know. And another solo win there from Barr as well, 23 seconds. Adrift to Anderson chasing, and then a bit of a bunch from third back. Mosden in fourth from the Lightning Strikes. From the Meerkats, we've got Varley in fifth, Faulkner in sixth from the Mischievous Meerkats. So let's differentiate between the misfits and the mischievous ones. We've got Whitehead in seventh for the Fearlets, Hilgerford in eighth for the Misfit Meerkats, Lyons in ninth for the Fearlets, and LeBlond taking out 10th for the Queen Bee Coalition.
The police are here. They're looking for the Meerkats. Which ones? The Ms. Somethings? That's how they get away with it. You're never sure who was who, right? So, okay, let's jump in with the men now, or men's mixed, to be fair, because the ladies have more than represented, doing us proud out here in the Division 1A for America's West, and he's back. Another win for Stephen Wu of Alto Velo Zayante. It was, boy, some familiar names from Costa Rica. It's Nystrom for the silver, Bradbury from Canada. That's quite a mix of flags on the podium there. From, oh my God, they killed Kenny for third, Mulligan in fourth, Yamazaki for fifth, Oceani, excuse me, that was horrible. Oceani from Musette Honey Badgers in sixth, Pakal from On the Rivet Hayes in seventh, Flanagan in eighth for Dirty Rascals Riot. Ninth place was Sweet for Alto Velo Zayante. And then again, Faucher for Dirty Rascals Riot. rounding out our top 10. Sorry, Kate, I have had a long day on the mic.
I like how you
Wow.
said sweet. Like you need a little bit of a chocolate brownie before you head to bed or something.
I do, I
Let's
do.
take a look at the bee cats. We'll get one Ubered over to you. I'm sure they do Uber Eats in America. If not, let's organise that. We've got Joshua Smith leading the way here in the B division. Brian Weeglis in second. We've got Brian Diddy in third. I like that name, Diddy. It's a little bit fun. Matt Thompson
Cool.
coming in fourth for On the Rivet. In fifth, we've got Joey Maguire for the KRTB Big Timbers. We've got Fugner in sixth from Evo Sonic Blast. He goes by the screen moniker. He's our monster truck. If you remember him, Dave, that we've had a little bit of fun calling
Right,
the
right.
monster truck before. So that is our
His
monster
race
truck
alias.
there.
Yeah.
Exactly. We've got Jonathan Camerath sitting in seventh for the Tableau Hot Lunch. Jesse Williams coming in eighth. Scott Adams coming in ninth. And in 10th, we've got Yoni Michael from Penn Velo. So pretty split across the teams there. It'll be certainly interesting to see what happens overall there. But from the Dirty Watts, Padres taking the win there. And the C's, Dave?
Well, thank you, Kate. And I'm going to up my game and get the first names too, as I figured out how you're doing that. TFC Mojo is the team of our man, Dennis Shaniker. What a ride today, Dennis. He picked up some bonus
or
prints.
Mr. Shenanigans, as I prefer
Or
to call
Mr.
him.
They call him the Shenanigans. Exactly. Well, he certainly impressed us today, Kate. So it was Chris Denton of the herd of Aero Appaloosas for second. In third place, Steve Wagner of the Dirty Rascals Grind. We then have Eric Matkowski in fourth for On the Rivet Force, and they took the next two spots as well, as it was Rick Keller and Felix Maximilian, as that is our fifth and sixth, or F. Albel there. Want to make sure I get them both. Seventh place going out to Judd Dooling of the Z Sunspot team. In eighth place, we've got Robin Cragen of TFC Mojo. Ninth today going to Chad Garreau. Chad, great job out there for Zed Sunspot. And then a rider who was active all day for Penvelo C1, the man himself, Oliver Chi. So great job to all of our C's out there today.
Oh, that was a cracking race too. Very exciting
Super.
sprint finish over the line there. So let's take a look at the D's here. And taking the win for Lightning Velo, we've got Craig Jones leading the way. For the herd of charging courses, they did well in second and third, with Eric Newitt in second, Dan Gibbison taking third. We've got Daniel Yoon. The Dirty Rascals diaper changes. That's the one for you, Dave. Sitting in fourth. You have to be very careful saying that, don't you, though? We've got Kent Smith for Lightning Velo D taking out the fifth. Herd of pronghorns. That is something I will have to Google tonight for Michael Gordon. He took sixth pronghorns. I'm just quickly writing
Antelope.
that down to look that
Yeah,
up
kind of like
Is
antelope.
it? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. A pronghorn.
Deer,
What an
kind of.
interesting named animal.
Yeah.
Okay, we've
They're
got
cool.
Matt Kappelman for the diaper changes in seventh. We've got Michael McCarthy for the herd of charging courses taking eighth. Laura Lindgren, we've got a lady in the top 10, Dave. Big shout out to her because, of course, this is a mixed division, not just the men. So that's great to see a lady in the top 10. And we've got Amado Diaz, some more antelope pronghorners. They're taking out that top 10. You know, if nothing else, I've learned a whole lot through these series of some far-flung foreign animals.
About animals, for sure.
Yeah, and definitely mountains as well. A lot of the teams have gone for that. Look, it's keeping it interesting.
Kate, we have had some real ups and downs with Nathan along the way. We've had some shining moments with animals, and we've had some embarrassing swings and misses as well. But I want to say pronghorn antelope, but it might be gazelles, but it's that family of light, springy deer type
It's
animals.
not a meerkat. It's not in the same family as a
Not a cat.
meerkat. I mean, I
No.
think let's just go with that. I mean, we can make it that. If I can make a shenanigans out of all of this, I think tonight that'll absolutely do. Dave, thank you so much. I feel like you have had an epic day on the mic. So thank you for everything you do for the community in calling so many of these leagues. Nathan and Martin in the background, we salute you for giving us everything we need when we demand it live on air with no warning. So thank you very much for that. We will be back next week, Dave, same time for week 7. Can you believe we only have a couple of weeks left of season 3? Do not fret. We're busily planning the other seasons after that. But Dave, I think it's time for you to go make a cup of tea and get yourself a brownie before bed. It's been a very big day, and we will see you next week. Oh, maybe
I'm
watch
going to
the
go
Giro.
watch the
That could be a
Giro.
good
But
thing to do. Yeah.
Nathan just told me, Kate Bates, you just won Employee of the Week with the great job you did. It is an absolute
Well, hopefully I
joy.
get a poster for that, and a little
I
framed
hope so too.
picture would be more than adequate. All right, we'll see you next week, Dave.
Good night.